and immune responses to the gypsy moths themselves than to this product, because of the exposure to they have hairs and their frass, their droppings, their shed skins, and so forth. There are actually more cases of human irritation or sort of allergic sort of reactions to the gypsy moth itself at high densities than these kinds of products.
My next question is, how effective can this be, or can they actually be eradicated, or will this be kind of like a whack-a-mole scenario where they pop up and you whack them, and you pop up and you whack them? And
yes, that is actually the part of the strategy for the whole gypsy moth program. There's something called Slow the Spread. It's been a program in place for a long time now, and it's designed to, as this gypsy moth front moves across North America. This started up in the Northeast in Massachusetts, been slowly moving across North America, west essentially, since. The Slow the Spread program involves a lot of trapping ahead of the front, to find where they're moving, and then very targeted applications of either actual pesticides or pheromones like this one to slow them down. Gypsy moth is the kind of thing that is unlikely to be eradicated completely. And it also exhibits population cycles. So it will kind of rise to high densities where you actually see them, you see the damage for a year or two, and it can be extensive, but then they tend to drop back down again as natural population cycles, things that regulate those sort of cycles, kick in.
Well, that brings me to another question then. Could any of this, I guess you would say, tinkering with nature, even an invasive species has then been brought here via modern transportation methods. It's obviously tinkering with nature itself. But are there any repercussions or possible ramifications that we might not know about, that all this kind of, I guess I would say, tinkering with nature's, their populations go up and down, and certain species, when they become so dominant, will kill themselves because they eat all their food off, or
any time that you try to manage nature, you could say you're tinkering with it. That comes down to somebody mowing the grass or making a lawn, mowing their grass, putting in a road. It's, to some extent, so much of nature has been tinkered with. It's hard to even think about it as wild nature. But the whole idea of these kind of treatment programs is to try to protect as much forest quality trees as possible. So in some sense, this product in particular is one of what's thought to be one of the safest and softest ways to do that, as I've heard it put, to kind of prevent the gypsy moth from tinkering unnaturally with our environment here. Again, gypsy moth being a non-native species here in North America. So now you had asked a question by email about the possibility of this kind of product leading to mutations or something.
Yes, exactly. Like in the gypsy moth, to where we end up with a stronger gypsy moth.
That seems very unlikely, and the reason is this product is designed to prevent reproduction. So even if the moth being exposed to high concentrations of this pheromone that's sort of unnaturally high in some location, say that did produce a mutation in its DNA.
Yeah, and you get moths who go, who don't pay attention to it. Yeah.
Right. Well, if that moth does not reproduce, that mutation ends with that individual moth. So the only way you could get any kind of genetic change in the species in response to something like this is if mutations arise and they're heritable, they get passed on generation after generation, and you select for moths that no longer respond to this pheromone or something. But since the whole point of this pheromone is to disrupt mating, that seems very unlikely. Now, that kind of thing arises with actual toxic pesticides, where you can get the evolution of resistance
well,
to
my question, you said that not all of the gypsy moths would kind of succumb to the pheromone.
Right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
so would those go ahead? I guess my question: the guys, the gypsy guys who get past the pheromone and get back, will they have some? They won't have any kind of what's the word? Adaptive nature, or mutations later, or not really mutation, but these are the guys' genes who didn't pay attention to the pheromone.
Well, they'd have to be able to pay attention to the pheromone, or they couldn't find the female.
Okay.
Because this is how they find the female. So
Okay.
there still would be some selection involved for them to do the right thing, to respond to the pheromone in the correct way, to mate with a female. In that case, they haven't been disrupted in the way that, if you led to selection for, say, loss of response to this pheromone, then they wouldn't find the females and they wouldn't reproduce.
Sure.
So this kind of product it hasn't necessarily been designed in this way, but by the way it works, that scenario is very unlikely that anything would happen. Plus the fact that it doesn't seem to have any toxicity at all. It doesn't seem to be carcinogenic. It doesn't seem to be mutagenic. It just doesn't seem to cause mutations in anything that's been studied. So it just seems very unlikely with this particular product.
Well, great. This is all good news, and I really appreciate you illuminating me and the people who will be listening this, because they put out these things a lot of times, I think, so quickly without any background information, and anyone can go online and find something bad. And there's two sides of everything, obviously, and I really appreciate you. You've worked so close on this subject and in this field, and taking the time to illuminate us all. So I really, really thank you. If you have anything else to say in closing?
Well, no, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to provide some of that illumination. On my side of things, as a scientist, it's always satisfying if I can help dispel misunderstandings or just clarify things for people who don't have access to literature like I do, or the background that I have. Okay. So I just, again, thank you for the opportunity to do this.